I'll show you how to get to it. I'm going to start this presentation with a little bit of a disclaimer. Usually I love to do Q&A stuff, and I love to have interaction. Today I'm going to shoot a lot of information at you quickly and then scoot out of here to get to my nephew's football game. So just FYI. Charlie's got my information. If you'll have direct questions, just email them to me. Sound good? By show of hands, can you tell me how many of y'all have a rainwater system? Awesome. Okay. How many are on well water? Okay. This applies to pretty much everybody then. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the things to do to protect those two systems. What items you'll be looking for when those systems do break, and then, how to hopefully prevent full failure when we get a deep, deep winter storm. Some of these things y'all know very well, but as we go over them, maybe you'll learn something new. So, first and foremost, our website, harvestrain.com. If you go there now, you always put this up before winter, so if you want this handout digitally, or you just want to send it to somebody, if you look down there in the bottom right corner, it's our best freeze tips. So if you click that, this PDF is downloadable. So harvestrain.com it has a little pop-up, and that's what the landing page looks like if anyone is interested in the actual hyperlink. That's what it is. Just protect your rainwater system during the freeze. So I wanted to start with 2021 documented damage because it's always fun to look at pictures. And I picked some of the ones that I found really remarkable. Everyone saw ice everywhere, but I've lived in Iowa, so I'm no stranger to Midwest ice dams on gutters. I had never seen them in Texas. This is our old office, one day after the storm came through. Those icicles are pet killers, some people in Iowa would call them, but they are extremely damaging to gutters and roof systems. But that was probably not an unfamiliar sight. If you look at the picture in the middle, if anyone can tell what that is a rainwater system that has a full PVC downspout, so it's all watertight. Coming out like a flagpole or a periscope is an icicle. So that was such a crazy freeze that water, even in collection pipes at 4 inches round, and a 6-inch ground pipe froze solid and then shoved ice out of the top of it. As this icicle melted, the rest of the downspout sort of periscoped up. It was pretty unique to watch. Now, what that meant was that all the things that we typically think are safe from freeze, because they're not pressurized, big 4-inch PVC pipe, exploded. And I'll show you some pictures of that. The last picture in this slide is overflow. So that's typical, water sort of streams down overflow. What I found remarkable, and hopefully y'all can see the contrast, is the thickness of that ice. When it's below 20 degrees, anytime you get a drop of water outside, it does not take long for it to freeze. And if it's next to other ice, it's going to freeze on top of that ice. So the weight of water, does anyone know the weight of water in a gallon?
8 pounds.
Yeah, everyone knows it, right? So as soon as you start getting what looks, this is a 6-inch pipe. As soon as you start getting what looks like 20 to 30 gallons on the edge of a pipe frozen, that is now 20 times 8.5 pounds pulling on your infrastructure. So anything we can do to prevent these things is what we're going to talk about. A couple more fun slides. That's the outside, that's the collection stuff, right? This is the inside. This applies to both well and rainwater systems. So if you're on a rainwater system, you probably have filters and filter cartridges. If you're on a well system, you probably have filters and filter cartridges. Even inside, in somewhat insulated areas, this is like, 3 RF panels. So it's not much insulation. It typically protects us. The filtered canisters, which are thick plastic, blew up. Those are 2 on the ground that just exploded, 20-inch ones. That's the bottom of the one that came off. All 3 of these pictures are in what we call insulated spaces in Texas, right? We learned that those were not insulated enough. So these were inside of pump houses with RF paneling. It did not matter. We'll talk about why those blew up like we did in a second. And last picture of the damage series is the pressure side of things. So what I've shown you before is sort of items that you wouldn't typically think to blow up, but these are items that we always want to protect even in the slightest cases. These are icicles that came from a check valve inside the pressure system, frozen solid, cracked the check valve, which is stainless steel. This is a Gould stainless steel pump. Now, if you're familiar with Gould's pumps, either on your rainwater system or your well system, they are not supposed to be convex like that, right? They're supposed to be straight. This thing bulges out all the way around, and this is stainless steel. So that wasn't decommissioned during the freeze. This is the one I found most remarkable. This is a cast iron pump. And if you see that crack, it goes all the way around the house. So bottom line of all this is that water is powerful in whatever form it takes, especially in ice form. It expands, It strengthens its molecular composition. It can blow up stainless steel and cast iron. So what do we do about it? So I'm just going to throw up the 5 steps to protect the rainwater for water system, and these will apply to both rainwater and well water. The first and the easiest is insulate all exposed small diameter pipes. So what do I mean by small diameter? 2-inch and down. Anything that provides pressure into your home, in your buildings. That's the first and foremost thing. I think everyone probably ran out and bought insulation after 2021, right? They got very familiar with wrapping, got very familiar with that. The second thing is this applies almost exclusively to rainwater, so the minority of those in here, is open a drain valve on the collection line or your first flush diverter. For those of you who have rainwater, can you raise your hand if you have a drain valve or a first flush? Okay, you know where that exists? The reason we put this big warning here is if you do that, and we're in for a freeze of 4 or 5 or 6 days, you will not collect any of the water that falls, right? Be it ice form, sleet form, you're letting all of the water bypass your collection system and run out on the ground. And the whole reason for that is the same reason that we're going to do all the other steps, which is to let there be space in the pipe. Water expands. If there's no space, it blows things up. If there's space, it leaves the pipe. So for the rainwater folks, hopefully when you go into the winter, you've got a half tank. Just let the rest go. I know it's tempting to collect snow. I know it's tempting to collect sleet. Let it go. Open the drain. If you have a rainwater system and you don't have a drain line, it's the perfect time right now to do that. So just a place where all the water can run. The third is the drip faucets. Now, these last 3 are going to be heavily dependent on what happens during the freeze, which we will see why. But drip faucets is very simple strategy. Move water. Moving water doesn't freeze, right? Well, it can freeze. Moving water typically has a harder time freezing if it's being fed with more water. So you always hear open cabinets, drip faucets. It's the same in a rainwater system, the same in a well water system. The fourth is heat components. If you have a semi-insulated pump house, either for your well infrastructure or rainwater infrastructure, space heater, a heat lamp, like a chicken lamp is what I call it, blankets, anything you can do to pile stuff of heat on those systems is great. And then the last thing is confirm your UV light is on a surge protector. One surprising thing about 21 is that when the power went off and on and off and on and off and on, the UV lights on our rainwater systems and sometimes for the well water systems exploded at the controller because they just couldn't handle the power surge. So people were tempted to leave their UV light plugged in. My suggestion would be to plug in your UV light every time you use the rainwater, if it's still operating during the freeze. Does that make sense for everybody? So all of your electrical components, sort of use them like an on-off, rather than keeping them constantly on if we're having sort of rolling blackouts.
Are you talking about the heat lamps as well?
The heat lamps can stay on.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully all this stuff is a surge protector. If you have a surge protector or a power strip, I would put one in all of your pump house components, just to protect from power surges. Now, does any of this, let me show you one picture of what an insulated filter wall should look like. So for those of you who have rainwater, this may look somewhat familiar. This is called a Gould's controller and pressure bladder. This goes to our submersible pump. And then this, of course, is our UV disinfection system with the carbon and sediment filter. As you can see, that insulation I mentioned is on everything. This has not been completed because there's one section of pipe that's not yet to be done. But the good rule with insulation is double up what you think you need and then do it again. There's no harm in just wrapping the heck out of your pipes. It's not going to hurt the pipes. It's going to be a pain to unravel that stuff, but it's much less of a pain to unravel insulation than it is to replace an entire system. So that's what an insulated filter wall looks like. Now none of this matters. None of that, well, some of it matters, but the last 3 don't matter if there's no power, right? Which is exactly what happened in 21. So we had rolling blackouts in this area, we had full power off. Let's see who has the record for longest power off. Anyone over 2 days? All right, that's the record. So I think the record for one of our clients was 7 days, which is unbelievable, right? But if you have no power for even 2 hours, all of the last 3 steps of this become somewhat irrelevant. In a well water system or in a rainwater system. What you do instead of protecting is decommission. Now, does this mean living without water? It does. But it means living without water for the time that the storm is here, and then turning your water on and having it accessible again right when the storm's gone. Instead of leaving your water on, hoping everything's fine, everything blowing up, and now you're in a queue of 2-3 months to get your stuff fixed, which is what we saw people have to happen. So the decommission is a little bit different, and we'll run through them briefly. The first and foremost is turn the power off to the pump. Again, you're not gonna have water, but to protect it, take the electrical components out. Power to pump, power to UV disinfection, power to anything that's in your tank, level indicator, take it all out. If you think you're gonna lose power, unplug everything, turn off the breakers. The second is close the main valve of your tank. This applies to a well-hold tank or a rainwater tank. And a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, this is counterintuitive. If I want water to expand, why am I going to close it at the tank? The reason is this: when a break happens in your suction or pressure line outside of your tank, where's your water going to go? We had that happen to 3 or 4 customers who said, oh, I'm just going to leave my tank faucet or my tank valve on. That way when water expands, it can go back and forth. But as soon as the line breaks, all of the water has a place to go. So the first is turn off all power. The second is secure your supply. Whether it's well water or rainwater, close the valve. The third is fully open the valve or faucet on the pressure side. So we learn to drip when we have power because we don't want all of our water to run out. But if you shut down power, you want as much of the water out of the line as possible. Empty, make it an airline, right? Does that make sense? Every faucet you can make. Again, it's much easier to go back and close faucets than it is to repair pipes. The last, and this one got a lot of people when you saw them in some pictures, is drain the pump to protect the interior components. Now, for those of you with a well hold system, you have 2 pumps, right? You have a submersible pump down the ground, which pumps out into the whole tank. That thing's protected. It's 500 feet in the ground, it's not going to freeze. But on the well hold tank, there's usually a pump on the outside providing pressure to your house. How many people have a well hold tank? Okay, so are you familiar with the pump that sits outside of that tank? Drain that thing. Those 2 pumps that we saw were both well-hold tank pumps on the outside. So if there's still water in them by the time it freezes, it will explode the pump from the inside. I'll show you some examples of what this looks like here in the next slide. And then the last thing is, again, it's decommission, no power. Take out the filter housings, take out the filters, disconnect your UV light. It seems like you're deconstructing the entire system, right? But it's, again, so much easier to go back and put stuff on than it is to replace components. Yes, ma'am?
Are y'all doing anything to perhaps solar power well pumps and well houses and EV housing?
There are some solar pumps on the market. They're few and far between, reliability-wise. But yes, they're definitely.
How much energy does it take to run a system? I mean, how many megawatts or whatever?
A pump system?
How much solar would you need to run your well house?
I do not have the answer to that. I'm not.
But y'all aren't doing any of that yet.
No, we have not picked a solar pump that would satisfy the household needs yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion, especially for a freeze when it's sunny outside. Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about pump drains. I like to bring this slide up because a lot of people are just not familiar with pumps and how they operate and what they do. These are centrifugal pumps. There are 3 sort of what I would call typical in this area for both well and rainwater. This is the Grundfos. Unfortunately, it's off the market. It's my favorite centrifugal pump that's ever existed, and it's no longer produced. The Gould's pump, which many of you will see looks familiar. This blue housing, probably on your well hold systems, maybe on irrigation systems. And the last is just an HMO2, which is also a Gould pump. The drain plugs are these little black or silver things at the bottom of the impeller housing. So a centrifugal pump, which all 3 of these things are, the entire thing inside is basically water filled, right? The main cavity of those pumps, here, here, and here, are where the impeller shafts sit. And they pressurize the water, right? They spin the water, pressurize it in that direction. You want all of the water out of those impeller areas. So each one of these pumps comes equipped with a drain plug. So if y'all have a well water system or a rainwater system, you have a centrifugal pump, a pump that sits outside of your tank, go home and look and find your drain plug. So many people didn't know it existed. Everyone cool with that? Okay. Now this is, I hope that this acronym isn't going to be like popular at all, because I just came up with it yesterday. But this, I'm just trying to think of a way to remember things to do, right? And so I put this together, which is remember, whoa, no. I'm not good at these, but this is the way I thought of it. Wrap pressure pipe with insulation. Open or drip faucets or hose bibs to move water to the pipes and collection line drain, so it's installed, power's still on. Heat areas of concern, space heater, heat lamp, heat tank. Then the no is no power, open everything except for the main tank valve, right? Hose bibs, filter canisters, UV light connections, faucets, the pump drain plug, which we just went over, anything that has water in it, anything that goes to your water tank, if the power's off, open it all and turn all the power off. Which is the next thing, power off all electrical components for a water system, preferably the breaker panel. So those of you with well water systems, you probably have that little centrifugal pump sitting outside near your well tank or something like that. I would prefer you go to the breaker panel, flip the breaker off, so that it's more of a chore to turn it back on when you do. Because recommissioning a system, which we're not going to talk about today, is a whole new process to make sure you don't blow out your pipes when you're turning it back on. So to make it a chore to yourself, flip off the power that comes from the breaker entirely. And the last thing I put on there is sort of a, I don't know, way to think positively, which is endure, exercise patience, and extend a helping hand. I will tell you that the community in this area specifically, the way they acted toward their neighbors during the freeze was remarkable. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. My guys on my team, other rainwater guys, other well water guys, everyone was working in concert, and I felt like it made it 10 times better to endure frozen landscapes and no water. So if all else fails, put E at the end, just remember, everyone's going through the same thing around. Okay, I know that was a rushed, quick thing to do, but hopefully the packet and then the resource on the website will answer any questions you'll have. If not, Charlie's got my information, feel free to reach out.
Is WONOP on the website?
What's that?
Is WONOP on the website?
It's not, I haven't put it up there yet. I'm not sure I will. You guys can give me feedback on this. I literally came up with it and I was like, yeah, that's
I found it.
You like it? All right, great.
Yeah.
Well,